It is great to be here again. Thank you, everybody. And you know, it's especially meaningful to be here today because I'm going to make an announcement after I tell you a little bit about Peace Lights, the story that got it here. And the fact that we're here at Bronx Community College is relevant because Bronx Community College has the most African immigrants of any college in the United States. And I thank Gene for hosting this and being part of this story. So Peace Lights, we see the Peace Lights over here. Peace Lights was inspired by a conversation that Sheikh and I had offhand at the awards dinner in 2015. And he said we had some lights up playing in the corner. He said, you know, there's really good energy in those lights. Everyone really loves the lights. And offhandedly, I said to him, hey Sheikh, how about a video like that as a symbol of good energy or peace or something like that? Kind of an offhanded comment. And his whole demeanor changed. And he looked down at me and he goes, Peter, we have not had a new symbol of peace in more than a generation. We've been looking for a new symbol because we're visual creatures to provide solidarity for actions of peace around the world. I said, wow. So I went off that night and driving down the west side, and driving down from near here to New Jersey, had this thought, called up my partner Eileen Cohen, who is the co-creator, and she gave a thumbs up, called back to Sheikh and said, hey Sheikh, here's what we propose. New York Peace Coalition commissions Pete and Eileen for free to remaster Drapes, those lights you saw, into Peace Lights. We'll add the word Peace Lights at the beginning, and we'll add Peace Lights in a bunch of languages. Turned out to be 55 languages. You may see the languages come up every once in a while here. We've had to fix 5 or 6 of the languages because people have come up to us and said they're not quite right. So what was other important, though, is that the colors represent the different cultures in the world. And the motion represents how those cultures interact and work together to achieve peace and harmony and good energy. Well, we delivered it to the New York Peace Coalition on April 8th of 2015. And April 9th, the New York Peace Coalition adopted Peace Lights as their international symbol of peace and nonviolence. 2 weeks later, on Earth Day, peace organizations from 14 other countries adopted Peace Lights. That summer, the United Nations International Year of Light endorsed Peace Lights. Peace Lights is now from all of the Peace December and other countries as well. Peace Lights is played at the United Nations and at United Nations related events 13 times. It's been in Times Square twice. It's played on 6 of 7 continents, played for extended stays, 6 months in a row every day at Fed Square in Melbourne, Australia. And it's starting to become associated with different actions and different programs related to peace. And it has taken me on this journey that has been incredible. I've got to meet amazing people, Gene, Bishop, K-Born, a lot of inspiring people along the way. Somewhere along the way, I had a conversation with Sheikh, and he said, I got there early for a meeting at Westchester Avenue. He goes, Peter, we found her. I'm like, who'd you find, Sheikh? We found her, Claudette Colvin. I didn't recognize the name. But that meeting really changed my life and my direction because they wanted Peace Lights to play at a ceremony honoring Claudette Colvin, and they wanted me to speak. And it was going to happen on December 1st of that year, the first day of the International Month of Peace, which starts tomorrow, which is why we're here to celebrate. Because New York City and New York State are the only 2 places in the United States that have enduring proclamations that, like the United Nations, recognize December as the month of peace. So of course I waited till the last minute and I went to get a book on Claudette Colvin over Thanksgiving. I read right away something that impacted me, and I said, whoa, Claudette Colvin was credited with accelerating the change in the plight of colored people. I said, wow, what's that about? So I looked into it a little bit more, and she was the one who got arrested first, before Rosa Parks, on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. It was her that inspired and woke up everybody and got that whole action started. And of course, Rosa Parks was the much better symbol of the civil rights movement. But Claudette Colvin's lawsuit was what went up to the Supreme Court and changed the law. And it was Claudette Colvin, in accelerating the change, that accelerated the timeline that lowered the amount of deaths per day, the plight of colored people. She's not recognized, and she is well-deserved of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, in my personal opinion. So, as I was preparing for that, it kind of struck me that by accelerating that curve, she literally saved lives. And she literally saved lives because her teacher, her English teacher, Mrs. Geraldine Nesbitt, took time out of teaching English and taught the class about the Constitution, about her rights. And she took that information, applied them, and turned out saved lives. Well, you could say that if Claudette Colvin literally saved lives, then Mrs. Geraldine Nesbitt, her English teacher, by empowering her, literally saved lives too. Right? And it's what she taught the class that made the difference. And what she taught the class would fall under the umbrella of, maybe not fully defined, but fall under the umbrella of peace education. We heard Chris from HWPL talk about how Mr. Lee is a big proponent of peace education around the world, and how Nelson Mandela says, education is the weapon to transform our world here. Well, it occurred to me that is very true, and I went back to Sheikh, and I said, hey, Sheikh, what is peace education? What's all this discussion? What really kind of is there a definition? And it turns out there isn't. He said, but, you ought to talk to a couple people. He set me up and said, why don't you call the African Union and try to talk to, not try, call up the African Union, mention my name, and tell them you want to speak with Tete Antonio, the ambassador to the United Nations. Now, the African Union, I come to learn, 55 countries, 2.2 billion people, a third of the world. 60% of those people are under the age of 30. And I just call up and boom, within a week and a half, I'm sitting down with the ambassador. Right? It wasn't Tete, it was the ambassador for peace and security from Uganda, Mr. Adonia Ayabare at the time. He handed me Agenda 2063, which I had never heard of. 50-year plan, right? No one's heard of it. How many people have heard of Agenda 2063? A handful of people in here, okay. All right? So I read it cover to cover. And it turns out that there are 7 beautiful aspirations for Africa. The 4th being a peaceful and secure Africa. Under those words about peaceful and secure Africa, it says, a culture of peace and tolerance shall be nurtured in Africa's children and youth through peace education. Wow, it's kind of a tie-in with the Claudette Colvin story on peace education. There's also 11 strategic development goals to help them achieve their 50-year plan. But it turns out none of them had to do with peace education. So I called up the ambassador again, went back and see him. Hey man, what's up with that? Did it just a big miss or what? It's a pretty important part of a 50-year plan, and you don't have anything about peace education. So he said, Peter, it's pretty insightful. Not many people kind of pick up on that level of detail, but in reality, it's amazing that we got Agenda 2063 through. To get 54 nations at the time to agree on anything is amazing. And we could not define what peace education is. So there would be no way that we could even attempt to go after that. I come back to the Sheikh. I keep coming back to this man right here, right? I said, hey, Sheikh, I keep getting this far. Oh, Peter, you must talk to Mamadou in Senegal. Turns out Mamadou is a professor at one of the leading West African universities, and he is very interested in peace studies, and he has chaired Pan-African curriculum development working groups. Pan-African curriculum development working groups, there's a call for peace education, there's no definition of it, and if left alone, when is the African Union, a third of the world, going to see peace education? Maybe in line with when the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals kind of roll around in 2030. They have a couple things on education in there. Maybe by 2035. Well, you know what? African Union has done this before. Let's do it again. Hey, Mamadou, you've chaired this sort of thing. You have any financial models on that? Sure. So he gives me some financial models. I model it out. I had some UNESCO people, Youth for Human Rights, blah, 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 blah. I get a number. So what I'm here tonight to announce, besides Peace Lights being here as an internationally recognized and continuing to show symbol of peace and support around the world, is an organization called Project Peace Lights, inspired by this journey that I found myself on with Peace Lights. Project Peace Lights is being formed specifically to raise the funds and to fund the effort to support this Pan-African Curriculum Development Working Group, so that the timelines for peace education can be pulled up from mid-2030s to early 2020s, thereby, as Claudette Colvin's story teaches us, saving lives. And we're going to start a campaign that is going to crescendo to February. And the GoFundMe site will be up very soon, and even early donations will help us to better prepare for this. The campaign is going to be this Black History Month, help make history in the African Union. And anything you all can do to support that and propagate that message is much appreciated, as is the constant invitations to have peace lights at many of these events, as is all of the loving familial relationships that I've had the honor to have because of the exposure and gratitude that I have for Peace December organization. So enjoy the lights. Take the postcards over there. We have new postcards that are going to be printed out. They will have the Project Peace Lights logo on the back. And thank you very much. Have a great night.